Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. The flickering candlelight of society danced across Sally Spectra's troubled expression as she swirled her untouched glass of Merlot. It had been a long day, full of business propositions and unspoken suspicions. Her phone buzzed again and she ignored it again. She didn't want to see Billy's name flashing across the screen right now. Not yet. Not after what she'd heard say earlier that morning at the Grand Phoenix, loud enough for the walls to absorb, but not loud enough for Sally to call it direct confrontation. It wasn't just hearsay, had been scheming again, and Billy was tangled in it up to his perfectly combed hair. Sally didn't need to see the blueprints of the plan to know it stank of revenge and ego. She had fought so hard to keep Billy from going full vendetta against Victor, but Billy never learned, especially when his ego had something to gain and his heart had something to prove. And now she was supposed to accept media like a wrapped gift on Valentine's Day. Billy had called it a present. A present. Sally laughed bitterly and finally down the wine. A present that came drenched in betrayal and a business coup that would destroy Kane and Victor in one fatal swipe. What had she become if accepting such a gift even seemed plausible? She remembered how far she had come since arriving in Genoa City, from being the fiery redhead outsider to carving her place in the media world. She'd rebuilt herself, fought for every inch of respect she had now, and it had almost all come crashing down when Adam betrayed her with Chelsea. That ache still lived somewhere deep in her chest, like a wound that never quite healed. The door to society opened, and just like that the ache flared. Chelsea! She walked in like she owned the place, heels clicking, head held high, eyes scanning until they landed on Sally. Her mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, it was a warning. Chelsea approached slowly, each step loaded with years of resentment and unfinished business. Well, she said, voice sweet and sticky, sitting alone on Valentine's week, did Billy forget you existed? Sally stood, her eyes hard. What do you want? Oh, nothing, Chelsea purred, just wondering if you've heard the news. Word is Billy's been very generous lately, offering gifts that don't belong to him. Sally's jaw clenched, he's doing what he thinks is right. Is that what you tell yourself? Chelsea leaned in, her voice dropping, that stealing media is righteous. Sally didn't answer, but the crack in her armor was visible. Chelsea smirked. Careful, Sally, the last time you got in bed with powerful men you were left in the dust. Don't let history repeat itself. Then she turned and walked off, leaving Sally with clenched fists and a fire rekindled inside her. She exited society minutes later, phone finally in hand, fingers trembling as she dialed Billy. You're late, she said when he answered. His voice was calm. I figured you needed time. I need answers now. They met in the cabin an hour later, away from the prying eyes of Genoa City, where secrets flourished best in the cold hush of isolation. Billy stood by the fire wearing that smug half-smile she used to find charming. Now it made her nervous. I assume you've heard, he asked. You gave me media, she snapped, just like that without asking. It's not about asking, Billy said, walking toward her. It's about giving you what you deserve, what you earned. No, it's about using me as part of your revenge plot, she countered. And what happens when Victor comes after me, or when Kane strikes back? Billy paused. You're not alone in this, we're a team, you and me. Are we? She challenged. Billy softened. Sally, listen to me, we'll get control, I'll take Chancellor, you'll get media, we'll own this town. And if you fold it into communications, you won't just run a division, you'll run the future. Sally's heart pounded. It was everything she had wanted once. Power, control, recognition, a real legacy. But at what cost? He took her hand, eyes intense. You don't have to choose between us or the business. You can have both. We can have it all, but you have to trust me. Sally hesitated. Do you even trust yourself anymore? Billy didn't answer, not directly, but the way he squeezed her hand said everything. The fire crackled behind them, the only witness to a silence that brimmed with decisions still unspoken. The next day, Sally took a walk through Chancellor Park, trying to shake the storm swirling inside her. She watched children run past the statue in the center, laughing free, and she wondered if she'd ever feel that way again, untethered. As she walked, Adam appeared out of nowhere, as if summoned by fate. Sally, he said, hands shoved in his coat pockets, we need to talk. She turned to go, but he blocked her path. Please, he said, just 5 minutes. She relented. I know what Billy's planning, Adam said flatly, and if you have any sense of self-preservation, you'll stay the hell out of it. You don't get to tell me what to do, she spat. I'm not, he replied. I'm just reminding you that you've been burned before, and you're standing way too close to the fire again. Sally narrowed her eyes. Is this about Chelsea or you? It's about you, Adam said, and how I know you're better than this. The words echoed in her chest, stirring something painful. But by the time she returned home, her mind was made up. Billy arrived at her door that evening with a rose in one hand and a sealed envelope in the other. It's yours, he said, handing her the envelope. Inside was everything: legal transfer documentation, proof of ownership, media in her name. Happy Valentine's Day, Billy whispered. Sally stared at the papers, heart pounding, mind racing. And for the first time in days, she smiled. Sally Spectra stood motionless, clutching the envelope in her hands. The embers of the fireplace flickered in her eyes as she tried to process the weight of what Billy had just given her, not just the documents but the choice, the power, the revenge, the trust. She looked up at him, and for a moment something unspoken passed between them, a test, a challenge, a vow. I don't know whether to kiss you or slap you, she said finally, her voice low, uncertain. Billy chuckled. If it makes you feel anything at all, I'll take it. Sally walked to the edge of the fireplace, her fingers trailing the mantle. You've wrapped up betrayal and handed it to me like a Valentine. It's a gift, Billy said quietly, a beginning, not an end. She turned slowly. And if I don't accept? His jaw twitched. Then I still go through with it, but I'd rather you stand beside me when it happens. Sally stared at the documents again. It was all real, had done it, hacked through Victor's legacy and stolen the crown jewel of his media empire, and somehow she was now queen. Suddenly her phone vibrated. A message from Chelsea: be careful who you crown yourself with, the fall is steeper when you're not expecting it. Sally's lip curled, the nerve. Chelsea's sniffing around again, she said without looking up. Billy's expression darkened. Let her, she can't stop what's coming. I'm not afraid of her, Sally murmured, but I'm afraid of becoming her. You're not, Billy said, you've always been more. She didn't reply, but in her silence a decision bloomed. That night Sally stood before her mirror in the silence of her apartment. She studied herself, not the hair, not the designer blouse, but the eyes, and what she saw surprised her. Ambition. Hunger. Fire. She had tried to be the better version of herself, tried to walk the clean path, but Genoa City didn't reward clean, it rewarded ruthless, it rewarded bold, it rewarded people who dared to break the rules and rewrite them in their own ink. The next morning she stepped into media's headquarters like she owned it, because she did. Employees gawked, assistants whispered, and the executive team, they panicked. Victor was unreachable. Kane was scrambling. Sally strolled into the CEO office with the coolness of a hurricane building just off the coast. She ran her hand across the desk, the legacy of a family that had done nothing but use her, discard her, shame her. Now it was hers. Billy arrived minutes later, wearing a smirk. Well, he asked. Sally looked up from the leather chair and lifted her brow. Let the games begin. The aftermath was chaos. Victor was livid. Word spread like wildfire that his system had been compromised, that media was no longer under the umbrella of enterprises, that Sally Spectra was its new head. He launched internal audits, fired half his IT staff, threatened lawsuits, but the paperwork was airtight, had left no holes. Legally, morally, strategically, Victor had been outplayed. Kane, meanwhile, was in a tailspin. He was still scrambling to finalize the return of enterprises to Victor, but the moment he learned had intercepted the process and rerouted it to Billy, he lost it. He stormed into the mansion, fists clenched, demanding answers. Billy, of course, was waiting for him. You stole it, Kane hissed. You stole it from under me. You were just holding it for Victor anyway, Billy replied calmly. Consider this a reroute. You don't understand what you've done. Oh, I do, Billy said with a grin. I finally evened the score. Kane lunged, but Billy didn't flinch. The rage passed between them like a heatwave, but no punches were thrown, not yet. You think this ends well for you, Kane seethed. For Sally. Billy stepped forward. This town rewards power, we just rewrote the script. Meanwhile, back at the Grand Phoenix basked in the afterglow of her victory. She sipped champagne alone in the lounge, curious stares. Stopped by her table, lifting an eyebrow, heard you've been busy. Smirked, just giving the people what they deserve. Victor won't let this go. He never does. You're playing with fire. Then let him burn. Back at media, Sally called a company-wide meeting. Executives gathered, most of them cautious, some openly hostile. I know what you're thinking, Sally began. You think I don't belong here, that I didn't earn this. Silence. She stepped forward, her voice steely. But I've built brands from scratch. I've clawed my way through boardrooms and bullies and betrayal. I've survived the worst this town had to offer, and I'm still standing. So if anyone wants to challenge me, now's your moment. No one moved. Good, she said, because we're going to take media higher than it's ever been. The applause was reluctant, but it came. After the meeting, Adam appeared at her office door, uninvited. Bold speech, he said. Sally didn't look up. I meant every word. You know this won't end clean. It never does. You think Billy's going to protect you. I don't need his protection. You will. She finally looked up and her eyes were flames. Why do you care? Adam hesitated, because I know what it feels like to be standing on the edge. Sally stood, walked to him, then maybe it's time I jump. He stared at her for a moment, then turned and left. Valentine's Day arrived like a whisper, soft and deceptive. Billy invited Sally to a private dinner at the estate. The lights were low, the fire crackled, and the table was set for two. He handed her a box. What now? She asked, teasing. Open it. Inside was a bracelet, simple, elegant, and engraved with one word, Fearless. Sally's breath caught. You're not just the woman I love, Billy said. You're the woman who changed the game. She put the bracelet on slowly, heart pounding. I'm scared, she admitted. I'm not, Billy replied, not with you. They kissed not out of passion but of partnership, of power, of shared darkness. They weren't heroes. They were players. And the board was finally theirs. But shadows still loomed. Victor began to assemble a new team, tech experts, legal assassins, reputation managers. He wasn't done, not by a long shot. Kane began reaching out to his old allies, hoping to broker leverage against the rising empire of Billy and Sally. Chelsea, meanwhile, made her own move, setting up secret meetings with investors to build her own rival media brand. And Adam, he watched it all unfold from a distance, biding his time. Genoa City had become a battlefield of ambition, and at the center of it all was Sally Spectra, once an outsider, now a queen with blood on her crown. But she didn't flinch. She didn't waver. She had chosen her side. And she would fight to keep it. Because in this city, you don't wait for a throne to be handed to you. You take it. And she just had.